Hello everyone, I'm Charles. Welcome to Graphic Design Quick Start. In today's episode, I'll be showing you how to mask a real life shadow in Photoshop. We will start with this car image and mask it on this background. We later cut out its shadow and add it to this composition. And that will be the final look, a little bit realistic. Let us switch back to our starting composition. In this composition, I've done a little bit of background extension. Let us create a white background to cover the transparent area. Go to the bottom of the layers panel, click on the plus icon to add a new layer, drag it to the bottom, go to layer, new, background from layer. To copy the shadow, we will use the calculation command. Let us switch to the channels panel. The calculation command helps us to combine two channels to create one base of a channel. What you should typically look for is the darker shadows. In our case, red gives us the brightest channel together with more details. Blue gives us the darkest channel with some added contrast. Let us combine the red and blue channel. Go to image, calculations. Make sure your layers option are set to merged. Change the first channel option to red. Leave the second option to blue. If you need the darkest shadow, multiply gives you that. Overlay gives you the highest contrast. In our case, let us choose screen. We will need a light shadow so that we can see through it. Click OK. Rename the channel to red and blue. Duplicate the channel. Drag it to the plus icon. Call it cleanup. At this point, we'll move the areas that we don't need in the image. Pick the brush tool. Right click anywhere on the image. Make sure your brush hardness is at 100%. Click at the point whereby the shadow intersects with the car. Right there. Brush away. And over here. Brush away the other unwanted areas. Pick the marquee tool by placing M. Marquee the top part of the car. Place Alt backspace to fill it with white. Go back to the brush tool by placing B. Brush away the car. Leave out the front part of the car and the tires so that you have some point of overlap when transferring the shadow to an image. Let us clean up some of the blemishes in our shadow. For that, we will use the healing brush tool. Place J, pick the healing brush tool, hold Alt and click to establish a source point. Don't worry too much about the cleanup because we will follow it up with a blur. Just in case you have some gray areas around the shadow, get rid of that using the levels adjustment. Press Ctrl L, Command L on mark to bring up the levels adjustment. If we drag the breakpoint of the histogram towards the light, you realize we have some gray areas. To get rid of them, drag the white point past the two lamps around 200. Click OK. Let us add the blur. Go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Give it a radius of 5. If you have a high resolution image, give it a higher radius. Click OK. Go to edit, fade Gaussian blur, or press Ctrl Shift F, Command Shift F on a Mac. Change the opacity to 50% so that you have the blend of the original image and the blur. Click OK. Let us darken the shadow a little bit. Press Ctrl L, Command L on a Mac to bring up the levels adjustment. Click on the middle gamma values, hold Shift, and press the down arrow 3 times consecutively. Click OK. Let us add the shadow to our image. Hold Ctrl, Command and Mark, and click on the shadow thumbnail to load it as a selection. That will select all the light tones, but we need the dark tones. Go to Select, click on Inverse to select the dark tones. Switch back to RGB. Go to the Layers panel. Click on the image thumbnail. Also be sure to mask the image. For that, I prepared some paths in advance. Switch to the path channel. Click on the car path. Go back to the layers channel. To create a vector mask, hold Ctrl, Command and Mark, and click the Add Layer Mask icon. That creates a vector mask. Click on a background layer to show it. Go to the bottom of the layers panel and click on the plus icon to add a new layer. Let us call it shadow. Go to color. Bring up the HSB levels. Go to the color panel flyout menu and click on HSB sliders. Input a hue of 25%, saturation of 75%, and brightness of 5%. Go back to the layers panel. Place Alt backspace, Option backspace to fill the layer with a dark color. Press Ctrl D, Command D to deselect. Change the layers blending mode to multiply. Press Ctrl 0, Command 0 mark to fit the layer on the window. And there we have a well composited image. Let us enable this with screen mask. This shadow will work in any background. Let us hide the original background. Let us show the second background. As you can see, it blends in well. And that's how you mask a real life shadow in Photoshop. That's it for today. Like, share, and consider subscribing to our channel so that you don't miss out on our next episode.